Hello to my second live stream. It should be live on two platforms, on YouTube and LinkedIn. All right. Today's theme, Indigenous Relations and EDI and all that stuff. Anything Indigenous in Canada and Alberta. Please ask your questions if you have them in the comments. I'll try to keep track. It's always better if there's questions. So even if you're watching this after the fact, ask your questions in the comments and I'll try to address them in the next live. Just as always, I gotta double check to make sure things are working. LinkedIn says I'm live. YouTube says I'm live. So that's right on. All right, I'll shut that down. No, I need that. I closed the browser and the app I'm using, Restream.io, is in the browser. So I need to keep my browser open. And I had minimized it. So lucky I didn't close it. Or this live stream would have been real short. So I've written a document called Top Indigenous Relations Tips. And I guess I'll just start chatting about that right now, taking my time until someone asks a question. So these Indigenous Relations tips are for organizations, businesses, and things like that. You think about these are kind of like the easy first steps that an organization could do to start their truth and reconciliation journey. So I keep looking down over here because that's where I am on the screen. So sorry about that. I'll get used to this live stuff eventually. Maybe not. Maybe it'll get worse. Maybe it'll go downhill. Keep my chat window open. I'm going to switch sides. This way I can see the chat window better. And I can keep my document open. All right, I got it. So let's talk about some easy implementation stuff. These are things that you can do right now and start giving your organization a little more clout. The problem is with some of this stuff, it's easy to implement, it's quick to implement, but it might not really show that your organization is moving in that direction. This is really surface area stuff for the easy implementation. So if you want to put on a good show, this is the stuff. It still counts, but you got to continue that journey with more stuff. So let's talk about the land acknowledgement. I was in a meeting just the other day and someone questioned why we were doing a land acknowledgement. And I told them we do land acknowledgements at the start of every meeting in this organization. And they were just, why? And in Canada is here because of the treaties, because the Indigenous people shared the land. If you think about the United States, the Indigenous people in the United States are a conquered people. After the United States separated from Great Britain, they started their Indian Wars because they wanted to expand out into the Indian territories. And now we know that separating from England, they'll say it was a tax issue, but it's really more, I want to continue owning slave issues, right? And part of that was wanting more land, needing more land to expand your country. And the King George III had set out stating that Indian lands were there for the Indians, and you couldn't claim any more land without directly making a treaty or making some sort of agreement with those Indigenous people. So that's why they started the U.S., a new country by itself, started the Indian Wars to conquer these people so they could just take the territory without starting any sort of treaties. Canada, on the other hand, because we were still part of the British Empire, started treaty making, or continued treaty making, because there's a lot of treaties over in Eastern Canada that were made before this to share the land, and it continued across the country. Now, not every piece of land in Canada has been covered by a treaty. That's why treaty negotiations continue. But we honor the land, and we honor the Indigenous people that were here before the settlers came, because they were so gracious to share the land. And the treaties, the spirit of the treaties was to share the land and make sure there was no wars and no death. Now, through this treaty making, of course, the Canadian government wasn't honest in a lot of things, and the wording of the treaties. And when you think about Indigenous culture, there is not really any ownership. How can you own the land? How can you own that river? How can you own that tree? How can you own that tool you made from the tree? Because that's all the natural world. So how can you own that? So that's where the Indigenous people came from. They're like, this is where we live. We have no problem sharing it with you because this is all natural land. And that's where the treaties were. So we do the land acknowledgement at meetings in organizations. Best guess, if you're meeting with 3 or more people, you probably want to do a land acknowledgement. And this is a simple reminder of where we are and our shared history, because we're all treaty people, because the treaties are between Indigenous people and the new settlers that continue to come to Canada or are born in Canada. So we're all bound by the treaties. So we are all treaty people. Now, internal meetings, it's important, but external meetings, it's even more important to do a land acknowledgement, because that's your opportunity to show your allyship, to show that you are trying to make a difference in your organization. I'm just checking again to make sure everything's still going. Yeah, it's still showing the live is going. Okay, and I don't see any comments. I guess I don't trust the program yet. I haven't been using it long enough, so I don't trust the program. Sorry about that. Cough, something in my throat. So doing the land acknowledgement. The spirit of the land acknowledgement is that the person giving it has learned something and is now passing that knowledge on to the group. So a good thing to do is like next meeting, Dave, you're doing the land acknowledgement. And for next meeting, Dave does 5 minutes of research, find out who the local people are, maybe some interesting facts about them, cultural facts, anything really, where the territory where they were. And you give a little bit of that knowledge while you're doing it. And it's this learning process, giving thanks for that land. Now I guess I can do a sample of the land acknowledgement. Right, I got it somewhere here in this document. This is basically the one I use when I'm in a live meeting, when I'm giving the land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Papaschase First Nations people and the Treaty 6 First Nations people and the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 4 people. Now, the Papaschase people were here in the Edmonton area, very close. They were given a reserve, what is now Mill Woods in southern Edmonton, but it was taken away from them. Again, because they didn't want Indigenous people so close to the new city of Edmonton. It was probably still called Fort Edmonton at that point. And I honor them because they're the closest people. And I talk about Treaty 6 because I'm currently in Treaty 6 territory. So I honor all the nations that are in Treaty 6 territory. And I can't forget the Métis people, such an amazing group of people who have come together, bringing in, two traditions to create a new people. And they deserve some respect too. So I talk about the region I'm in, the Métis Nation region I'm in. Now, you could ramble on, and I could mention all the First Nations in the area, but that makes it a bit longer. And there's some places, Lower Mainland, Vancouver, there's a lot of nations there, and I know they try to honor them all by mentioning them all in their land acknowledgements. And good on ya if you want to do that. I try to cut it down. Because I do acknowledge that sometimes it could take long. It's if you ever ask an elder to do a prayer at the start of a meeting, you've just given them carte blanche, the opportunity to completely take as long as they need, as long as they want. What you scheduled for 1 to 2 minutes could be turned into 20 minutes. And completely mess up your whole schedule for your meeting. So be prepared for stuff like that. But the land acknowledgement really is supposed to be given by a non-Indigenous person. Don't just always expect the Indigenous person in your organization to always do it. And it's almost an insult. Especially if you're like, oh, Ian, you do this because you're Indigenous, right? No, it should be someone who's not Indigenous. The next part, we talk about websites, print media, email. I use this personal one when I send out emails. It's in the bottom of my email address. The one I just said, that's the one I use in my personal emails. But if you've got a website and you got print media, there's an argument that says that maybe you don't put it there because it's not a live event. I like to put it there. And I'm Indigenous, but really it's up to you in your organization, and it's up to your local Indigenous community. What are they expecting and what's proper for them? And we always have to remember that there are a lot of different Indigenous communities, cultures, nations. They're all different. They've got different languages, the same language, but multiple different dialects. There's a lot of differences. So, and that comes with everything, with protocol, with the land acknowledgement. That's why you got to get out there and you got to learn some stuff. You've got to, who's our local group? Who's our closest Indigenous group? And you go learn. Don't be scared to phone up the First Nation Administration Office and ask, who can I talk to learn about your culture and your people, right? They should be able to direct you to someone that you can talk to. And in that case, there might be protocol because you might be directed to an elder. So make sure you bring your tobacco or some sort of gift. Doesn't have to be big and fancy or anything like that, but the protocol is important to some nations. It's not as important to other nations. Protocol came around because the Europeans came to North America. It was the underground way of protecting the culture and protecting that knowledge. So that's why there's protocol, to show that you're being truthful about wanting to learn this knowledge, this traditional knowledge. So be prepared for that. But the one you want to put on websites, if you're going to do that, or onto your print media, I like to use, we would like to acknowledge and show respect to the histories, languages, and culture of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, whose presence continues to enrich our communities. And that, because the land acknowledgement is personal to me in my current location, me in downtown Edmonton, it makes sense for me to say the Papaschase First Nations people that I'm honoring. But if it's on my website, I can't specifically say a nation, because you're reading my website from Ontario, you're reading my website from Germany. Like, I got no control of where you are. So I don't know how to acknowledge those people where you are. Let's take a drink. So it's something you can put on here. I will try to comment here. I don't know if it's going to let me comment, but let's have a test. Learn more. So let's see if it'll send. So I don't know. I worked it. Show on stream. There we go. There. So, oh my God, my thing's in the way. Everything's in the way. Give me a moment as I learn how to make this work. There it is. It's in the comments. It's in the stream at least. It's everywhere on the stream now. Oh my. Find that one. But I'll leave it there. And then the one you want to use on a website, I will put that in next. Okay, let's have a look at this. Boom. Okay. Well, that's neat. Okay. So it won't let me post directly to LinkedIn, but it will let me post a comment to YouTube. Okay. This is me learning. Also, you can direct message me on LinkedIn and I can give you a chat and I can send you these directly. Now, these are just the basic templates that I like to use based on your area and the Indigenous people in your area. You may be doing something different. You may be saying something different. I can't stress enough that we're all different nations. We're not the same nations. You can't just lump together all Indigenous people as one people, because there's not. There's many, many peoples. Yeah, that's the land acknowledgement. It's pretty easy to do that. Say it at meetings. 30 seconds to a minute. So it's really not a big time suck, right? Like it can be done quickly. And putting something into your emails that's more personal, where you are, the closest nation, the territory you're in, the treaty area you're in, and if you have a Métis Nation organization in your province, certainly research on some of that. I wonder if I can share an image. Slide, screen, video, other. Let's see if I can share an image. And where is it? Oh, won't let me share that. Okay. Bear with me. Slide, screen. I can share my screen. Share window. Share this window. All right. Yeah. I love this map. This is... Oh, it's a little squished on my screen. Let's make it a little bit bigger. All right, so this is the... Let's go down to the bottom. It is the Alberta Teachers Association map. This is an amazing map. So if you're in another province other than Alberta, you might want to try finding a map like this, because this is just amazing. So this shows the treaty areas. I don't know if my mouse is showing. Oh, it does show. Okay. So this shows the treaty areas by color: Treaty 4, Treaty 6, Treaty 7, Treaty 8, and Treaty 10. You can see here that Treaty 10 is just a tiny little piece. And Treaty 4 is also a tiny little piece in southern Alberta. So those are the main treaty areas that are represented in Alberta. My people, I'm from Treaty 8. I'm from the Big Stone Cree Nation here in northern Alberta. And of course, we have a different language. The primary language for the Big Stone Cree Nation is Sakau Cree. It is a cross between Plains Cree and Woodland Cree. So Woodland Cree is up here, Loon River, Lubicon Lake, Woodland Cree, Whitefish Lake, and of course Plains Cree is a little more south around Edmonton. So it's kind of a cross between that. Sakau means boreal forest. So, but we're kind of in between. And we also see the Métis settlements in the area. Battle Prairie, Gift Lake, Peavine, East Prairie. So these shows all the different settlements across Alberta. And you notice there's no Métis settlements in southern Alberta. They're all central and northern. And then we also show the regional zones of the Métis Nation of Alberta. And that's the white line area. And you can see Edmonton, Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 4. Edmonton is in there. And you can see the Papas Chase First Nations people that I mentioned there from right here in Edmonton. And so you can see the province is nicely split up for these different Métis regions. And of course, we see the major cities and towns across the province. Another interesting thing is you can see the language groups. You can see the Cree, and that's all the little circles. But like I said, they might all be Cree, but it's not the same dialect of Cree for some of these nations. So there is similarities within close nations, right? Someone from northern Alberta could speak with a Plains Cree speaker and get, I don't know, understand 75% or something like that. Like it's pretty close. And a lot of it's speed of the language. I've been told that Sakau Cree, Big Stone Cree Nation fluent speakers speak very fast Cree. So it's sometimes a little bit hard to understand. Whereas you think about Whitefish, Woodland Cree, Lubicon Cree, it's a slower Cree when they speak. But it's still similar and you can understand it. So we have the square, which is the Dene language, Fort Chipewyan First Nation, Dene Ta First Nation, Beaver First Nations. But you also see there's some Dene further down, like Tsuut'ina. Very interesting that the Dene language group would come that far. And then we have the Little Diamond, Cree Saltee. So that's a different, like you think about Ochis, it's a different type of Cree. And then you have the Little Triangles, which is Stoney Nakoda Sioux. So that's the language group coming up from the United States, because we think of Sioux as more of a United States language, but it extends up because this is all prairie, right? From Edmonton south, that's all prairie land. So if you have the prairie Indigenous people, they travel across the prairie. And of course we have Blackfoot, which is a different language again. And you can see it, Siksika and Piikani Nation. And their nation, the Blackfoot Nation, is completely cut in half between Canada and the United States. So that's why we have things like the Jay Treaty, where Indigenous people are allowed to cross the border. I don't think I would cross the border right now with the current political conditions, but I can show my treaty card at the border, and I should be able to cross the land border with no problems going back and forth. It doesn't include going by boat, and it doesn't include going by plane, only if I'm physically driving across. And that's to acknowledge that our nations had been split up. So I might live in Canada, but my grandma's house is in the United States, right? So there's how do I go see my grandmother without crossing an international border? So that's nice that that's there. What else about this? It's just I can't say it enough. This is a really great map that the Alberta Teachers Association has created, and I use it all the time, and I direct people to use it. I haven't seen a better map than this, so that's pretty awesome. Close window, minimize window, stop sharing this window. I'm going to stop sharing this window. All right, I'll minimize that. So I would say look for that. That's a great little map, the best one I've seen for Alberta. We email signatures, websites. Okay. The next one. We're still talking about easy implementations, right? First one was the land acknowledgement. You can get that down and get that started. That is easy. That's not going to cost you any money. It's going to cost you 5 minutes to add it to your email signature. It's going to cost your web designer 5-10 minutes to add that to your website. I know I was able to add it to my WordPress website less than that, right? I have it. I just copied and pasted it in, and it was pretty quick. I put it into one of the WordPress widgets in the footer of my website. Sorry. And that's great because now it shows up on every web page. Every web page it shows up. So that's pretty awesome. So the next one I want to talk about. Sorry, I'm just coughing. I got allergies that come and go, and actually I think we're starting to get sick in the house. So my wife, whose desk is right there across the room, she's starting to feel pretty under the weather. So I think I might have got it yesterday, and it's starting to kick in today. Number 2, for easy implementation of your Indigenous Relations program, commit to having 5% Indigenous employees. I say 5% because Indigenous people across Canada-wide represent 5% of the population. That's actually kind of a sad fact, considering we were 100% 500 years ago. So, but you just kind of, wherever you are, in general, commit to 5%. But if you have offices or a store or a location, or your main office is currently located someplace where there is a higher percentage of Indigenous people, then you should be hiring more Indigenous people for that location. And you should be able to find out these statistics either through Statistics Canada, or your local municipality might have these numbers on their website from the last what do we call when we all do a survey for the government. I've forgotten the words. Population demographic survey. Anyway, it's a survey. It's like, do you work? What's your nationality? How old are you? How many people live in your house? The vital statistics type stuff, right? So, God, why can't I can't think of the word. So that statistic information is going to be someplace. You should be able to find it. So you just quickly search the community that your location is located at and find out. And this is going to go a long way to showing that you care about Indigenous people and you're trying to do your part in reconciliation, is to hire those Indigenous people. So some places might be 50% or 25%, it's not too hard. You got 5 people working at your office, make sure there's at least one Indigenous person there, right? Because chances are you're going to have Indigenous clients also, or you're going to be dealing with Indigenous businesses and you want to get their business, right? You want to make sure you're getting into that market properly. And this is one way to do it. Make sure the people in your community are represented within your organization. Sorry, my eyeballs are covered in something. There, now I can see. So, commit to having 5% Indigenous people at your organization. That's not really that hard. There's always that argument, I'm going to hire the most qualified person. Okay. Make it your tiebreaker question. If you have 2 similarly, equally qualified people, make it your tiebreaker and say, I'm going with this person because they're Indigenous. Right? This other person that you had to give up on, you can contact them for your next hire. So it makes you feel like you're hiring people just to hire these people. But if you've got no Indigenous representation in your company and you operate in Canada, you're not holding up your end of the treaties and your responsibility under the Truth and Reconciliation 94 calls to action. You got to be mindful of this stuff. This is the world. It's changing. The world is changing. You can't be complacent. You've got to hire the people that represent your country, your province, your city, your customers, your clients, your shareholders, right? You've got to make sure you're representing everybody. And it can seem like a hard thing, but it's not really a hard thing. Just commit to 5%. And on your job ad, you can put something like, we encourage Indigenous people to apply, or whatever sort of, we encourage disabled people to apply, whatever you're trying to aim at. And if you're really going hard and you're like, oh, we need some Indigenous people in our community, in our organization. Okay. This is what I learned from when I got my degree in human resources, and we talk about recruitment. Advertise in the places where that person or people you're trying to attract hang out. So if you've got a big Indigenous magazine, I know the Canadian Council for Indigenous Business, which I'm a member of, They have a magazine they put out every quarter. It goes to Indigenous people. It goes to other Indigenous businesses. That's someplace you might want to advertise. You might even want to say, we've committed to hiring at least 5% Indigenous people, so we encourage you to apply. On the local level, your community might have a friendship center. Your community might have a Métis Nation office. Your community might have the First Nation administration office where the chief and council hang out. Right? Make your contacts. You could just email this to the receptionist at the Indigenous Nations admin office, and that secretary receptionist could put it up, right? Or they'll be able to share it to their own list. I know my nation, the Big Stone Cree Nation, we now have an app. It's on my phone. All the members can get the app, and we get information from all the First Nations departments within Big Stone Cree Nation, right? Like I get a flyer. Oh, it's treaty days. Oh, we're hiring for this department or that department or whatever, right? So get into that stuff, because that's where the Indigenous people hang out, right? So it's not that difficult. It shouldn't be a big strain on your budget or whatever, right? You're putting out a job ad on Indeed, which I might argue might be the worst place to put out a job ad. But being able to put out that job ad in the location where the Indigenous people might hang out, that's where you want it. Sorry, itchy nose. So that's number 2 on easy things you can do for your Indigenous relations. Number 3, I've got host a KAIROS Blanket Exercise for your organization. Oh my God, my eye has gone super itchy. I apologize. This is the most entertaining live stream ever, just because my eye is itchy and my nose itchy. Everything's itchy. I'm sorry. I'm itchy everywhere now. The KAIROS Blanket Exercise. Me and my wife, we facilitate the KAIROS Blanket Exercise. It's we've been doing it now for over 6 years. And it has to be facilitated by an Indigenous person as the lead facilitator. That's kind of the one rule from KAIROS on that. And you should make sure that your facilitators are certified from KAIROS. And a lot of times you will just go to the KAIROS Blanket Exercise website and say, I want one, and they'll send an email out to all the local facilitators in the area where you are. So if you wanted one here in Edmonton, they would give you my email and say, hey, Ian here in Edmonton, he's a facilitator, right? So you may get several email addresses. You might be able to talk to 3 or 4 facilitators in your area or that are close by. I'm just coughing like crazy here. But the KAIROS Blanket Exercise is a participatory. It's an interactive history lesson of the last 500 years. It shows our shared journey with settlers and Indigenous people. And all the major events, most of them sadly, are negative events that have severely traumatized Indigenous people in this country. And it can be very, very powerful. It is a great, amazing way to introduce your employees, your organization, to start their journey of reconciliation, to understanding our shared history. And because this is kind of, 2 to 4 hours, depending on the size of the group. And it just gives you this amazing base knowledge. And it shows you the whole idea with the blankets. It shows you the dwindling land base of the Indigenous people and the dwindling population of Indigenous people. But it also gives a lot of wins near the end and gives a lot of hope. And it addresses the issues not as you bad Europeans, you destroyed our lives. Because most Indigenous people, yes, they're upset about things. But if you're an honest and open person and want to learn, Indigenous people will bring you in. They'll start teaching you. They'll feed you. They'll invite you to the powwow, stuff like that. And it's just so powerful. It can really change some people and get them on that reconciliation journey. But it's also something that you might need to see a few times. I think that's one of the powerful things about the KAIROS Blanket Exercise. If you see it facilitated by different facilitators, we all have different stories. I am not a residential school survivor, but my mother, my grandparents, my uncles and aunts, they have those experiences. I'm dealing with the generational trauma of those events and other events in history. So my stories are different. But you may actually get an elder facilitating. They've experienced, they were there, and they've got different stories that could be more powerful, could hit home to you better. I share my stories. I share my family's stories. I share general history when I do it, right? And it can be powerful. I know my wife, who's non-Indigenous, she helps me. And there's still parts today we both get choked up. We both might cry. And it's designed to some people it won't. That's with all things, right? It's what you want to learn. I know when I was in school, I hated Canadian history, and I never could figure out why I hated it. And we spent so much time on the colonization side of things from the Europeans' point of view. Montreal, Ottawa, the wars in there, the Marquis de Montcalm, like these historical figures. And I'm just like, this is boring. This is boring as shit. I did not enjoy any of that. And now that I'm older and I'm facilitating this history lesson from the Indigenous point of view, there are so many things that we're not teaching our school-aged people and children. I think they're doing better now. It has gotten better, because I hear about schools, even elementary schools, doing the KAIROS Blanket Exercise in class, and that's awesome. They're not always the official script, but still, it's being taught and it's being shown, and that's awesome. That's a win. My social studies book, I remember, started the chapter of Canada, and it was 2 pages basically saying Indigenous people lived here before us. And there was so little content on these 2 pages, and it was mainly a picture of like a teepee and some Indigenous people like cooking at a fire or something like that, and maybe a picture of a bow. I'm just like, that's it. That's my people. That's my history. The Europeans came. And it was just like, oh my God, this is. And it doesn't. And it never really got back to Indigenous people in any sort of real, meaningful way. It was really from the settler point of view and the New Canada point of view. So, where are we? Yeah, KAIROS Blanket Exercise. There's facilitators all across the country. None of us work through KAIROS anymore. We are basically contractors. Well, we're not even contractors. We're a list of certified facilitators. So we don't have any direct affiliation with KAIROS. So all of us will charge our own fees, and this is traditional knowledge. This is education. So we charge fees that are fair. I've heard of educational speakers charging $3,000, $6,000, $12,000. You hear about keynote speakers charging $30,000 or $50,000 for an hour-long keynote. Well, you've got a subject matter expert in your organization for 2 to 4 hours. If it was Dale Carnegie himself coming in trying to teach you how to win friends and how to, what's the word? I forgot the title of the book. How to Win Friends, and I forgot the name of the book. Anyway, you hear a big name. If you got Tony Robbins coming in to your organization for an hour-long keynote, what are you going to pay him? He knows his time. He knows that what he teaches works for a large amount of people. So yeah, he's going to charge you. He's going to charge you. He's going to be one of those $50,000 a keynote event, right? You go to one of his events, you're paying multiple thousands of dollars. So why would you not pay a good fee for this traditional knowledge and this history lesson? KAIROS facilitators are matter subject experts. They are experts. Most of them have lived experience that you just can't get anywhere else. So yeah, you should pay them well. Yeah. Too often organizations want to bring in an elder to come bless something or do something, and they think all they need to do is give that elder some tobacco, and a small gift worth, $50. That's an insult. You want an elder to come participate in your event, do the prayer, pay them what they deserve. If you're paying less than $250 for their time, that's an insult. That's an insult, because an elder is a matter subject expert in what they do, their knowledge, their culture. Now, not all elders are the same. Elders are elders because they're an expert in something. I would consider my mother an elder with beading and moccasin making. That's what her traditional skill is. My aunt, my mother's sister, older sister, I consider her an elder for the language and for teepee making, because she's got her master's degree and came back to the community, has been working to advance the language, to protect the language, and I'm kind of trying to grab that mantle too, because I'm scared our Sakao language is going to disappear. But I consider her an elder for those two things. If I wanted to talk about teepee making, I would go talk to my aunt about it. My cousin, her youngest daughter, she has learned to make teepees. And I am so proud of her. And I hope she doesn't lose that knowledge on how to make teepees. And, one day we would consider her to be an elder because of this traditional knowledge. Why wouldn't you pay her good money if she came in, showed you a teepee making demonstration, or even just how to set up a teepee? Why wouldn't you pay her for her time? She is a subject matter expert. So, what would you pay for this knowledge if it was a business motivator like Tony Robbins, or these sorts of things? Why wouldn't you pay for this? Would you expect Tony Robbins to come in for just a 1-hour workshop and not pay him anything? Would you expect that? Would he laugh in your face? Would he laugh so hard that the next 7 generations of your family would hear him laughing at you? Like, that's too often we think we can get something for free when it comes to Indigenous culture, Indigenous people. Pay them. They're subject matter experts. They need to get paid. So expect to pay for the KAIROS Blanket Exercise. It's going to be anywhere from $500 to $3,000. Expect it to be in that range. And I don't know of anyone who charges more than me right now. And there's 2 of us. We have to get paid for this. There's the prep and the material and just my knowledge. It comes down to, there's a story going around about a big ship that's stuck and they can't get their engine going, or there's something mechanically wrong with the ship, and they call in this old-time expert, and he walks in and he looks at their engine, and then he takes a hammer and he bangs it on the side of the engine, and the engine starts up. It took him 15 minutes, yet he's going to charge $30,000. And the company is like, well, why would you pay that? It was only 15 minutes. Well, I'll charge you $20 for my time, and $29,980 for my 30 years experience, right? Why aren't we paying for that? Why aren't we paying for their people Why aren't we paying for our Indigenous knowledge properly? So expect it. So it's an easy one to do and to book, but the KAIROS Blanket Exercise isn't going to be free. And if you're trying to search and find a way for it to be free, I might not facilitate for you. If you came to me and said, "Oh, that's too much. Can we get it for this lesser amount?" I'm going to say no, because I deserve to get paid for my time, and my wife deserves to get paid for her time. Where are we? What are we talking about now? KAIROS Blanket Exercise, that's number 3. It's easy. Number 3, sorry. That's easy, but it is going to be a cost to you. But it's a one-time cost. On the other hand, I recommend you book a KAIROS Blanket Exercise once a year, and you get different people in your organization to see it sometimes. Or maybe some people just need a refresher of the history of the stories. And if you get a different facilitator, that's going to be an even different experience. Now, that being said, if you're in Edmonton, I expect you call me every time. So those are easy. That you're not gonna break the bank. You're not going to completely fundamentally change your organization. It's starting place. It's an absolute small starting place. And you may start getting additional workshops, allyship workshops, and things like that. A lot of these could be from an online source. So it could be part of your onboarding with the organization. Here's 5 courses that you need to take within the next 90 days, or else we're going to fire you, right? Like those sorts of things. You can get a lot of that. Incidentally, I do online workshops. I do a shorter version of the Indigenous history lesson, and I can also talk about the other big topics that we talk about now, the UN drip and the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, and their 94 calls to action. Now, it sounds like a lot. Oh my God, 94, but the 94 applied to different parts of society. There's a big chunk for healthcare. There's a big chunk for education. The one, if you're watching this, you're probably in business of some sort. So you would be looking at number 92. This is reconciliation in business. And that's where the KAIROS Blanket Exercise fits in. It covers the education part. You are teaching your organization about Indigenous history. So it kind of partly covers your commitment, number 92. And there's a lot of them. You can find them. You can read through them and find out which ones actually work for you. Because maybe you're an education business. Maybe you're a healthcare business. And those healthcare... Oh, God. I just feel like there's stuff getting in my eyeballs. There may be stuff that's related to you depending on your industry. So I would have a look at those. Now, let's do that demo again. Let's see if I can... Oh, there's... How do I do that? I was going to share my screen. Oh my God. Share screen. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share a window. This is actually quite neat. I'm getting a hold of this finally. Except I'm on the wrong screen. How do I shift this window? I want it to be. Oh, there's that. There's that. There's this. There's this. There's this. Oh, how about that? Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna make it bigger. So again, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Canada has accepted this. It's the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act in Canada. Canada, legally, everyone, every business, every organization should be following this. I'm trying to make it a good size, but it won't get any bigger. It's weird. Anyway, I can make it bigger, but as soon as I do that, it shrinks it. Whatever. Okay. So I just want to breeze through this real quick. This was adopted in 2017, and I think Canada made the act in 2015 or 2017, something like that, relatively recently in human history. And preamble. I just want to show the titles real quick. Article 1, Indigenous people have the right to the full enjoyment as a collective or as individuals, right? This is basic rights and freedoms stuff. And Indigenous people and individuals are free and equal and to all other peoples and individuals, right? Like we're people. You got to treat us right. Self-determination, right to exercise, right to self-determination. Distinct political, legal, economic, and social, cultural institutions. Every indigenous individual has a right to a nationality. Right? Like this is indigenous individuals have the rights to life, physical and mental integrity, liberty, and security of person. Doesn't that sound like human rights in Canada or even the Constitution of the United States? This is very similar wording. Collective right to live in freedom, peace, and security as distinct peoples, indigenous peoples, and the right not to be subjected or forced assimilation or destruction of their culture. Right? These are really basic things. Having effective mechanisms to protect these sorts of things, forced population transfers, assimilation, propaganda, right? Indigenous people have the right to belong to an indigenous community or nation, shall not be forcibly removed from their lands or territories. Why do we have to say this? Why does this sort of thing need to be in here? Because we've been doing this to indigenous people, and that's bad. It's a no-brainer. Can you imagine if you're a white person, white male, white family, and someone and or the government walks into your front door and says, you all have to move out of here because we have other people who need to come move in here, so you're gone. Does that sound outrageous? It's because it is. Yet countries are doing this to Indigenous people all over the world. Right now. Right now this is happening. It's happening here in Canada. Think of the pipelines. Why do we have to run that pipeline right through traditional territories? Why are we logging someplace completely bare when there's a trap line there? Someone has been trapping on that land for the last 500 years, and now you're cutting all the trees down. Right? That's not right. What did you do for that trapper who has rights? Right? Because that's the story across the United States and across Canada. We were forcibly put onto reservations in the States, reserves in Canada, and this shouldn't be a thing. Practice your culture. We need effective mechanisms. Indigenous people have the right to manifest, practice, develop, and teach their spiritual and religious traditions, customs, and ceremonies. Right? Like, that's kind of what you're getting with the KAIROS Blanket Exercise. You're going to learn some of this stuff. 13. Revitalize, you develop, and transmit to future generations their histories, languages, oral traditions, philosophies, writing system. This is basic. I want to protect my culture. A lot of cultures that came to North America, they still believe in their culture. They are Irish, they are Italian, right? They still practice those traditions. Here in Canada, we allow people to practice their traditions, to speak their language, to follow their religions. We allow this. Why do we have to write something specific like this to allow Indigenous people to do the same thing? Control their education systems. Unfortunately, schools on reserves are underfunded. In my home community, we have a school on reserve, and not 5 kilometers over, off reserve, is another school. And they're getting like twice the funding for the off reserve school. Why are you funding the on reserve school less? It makes no sense. Racism. I gotta say it. Everything we've been doing in our history comes back to racism. Right? We got 32 pages of these different articles, and this has all been approved by the Canadian government. So I would get a copy of this declaration and read through it. I've read through it multiple times, and I still don't remember everything that's in here. United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. If you're running an organization in Alberta or in Canada or anywhere in the world, this document is important to you. Sorry. Nose problems. So I'm gonna stop sharing that window. bring me back to the big screen. Hello. So getting used to this. What time are we now? We're an hour and 15 minutes in. If you have a question, put it in the comments. Oh my god, I didn't have the ticker tape up. The idea is I'm here to answer your questions, and I want to answer questions. I don't want to just be ranting about certain things the whole time I'm online. And I might close down a little bit early this afternoon, because in about 10 minutes my wife should be coming back to do her job on the other side of the office. So we got to share this office right now, and that's fine. If someone has questions, ask them in the comments. If I don't get a chance to comment during the live stream, I'll try to answer in the comments in the recorded videos that show up. Got a book here. I think a lot of people need to read this book. Oh, you can't read that. How can I flip my screen? Here we go. 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act by Rob Joseph. This is a great book. Now I got a mirror, so I don't know. Is the recording showing up with me this way or another way? I think it's showing up right. Well, we'll find out. So I know a lot about this. I've read the Indian Act multiple times, and this kind of gives me the more information. It's another Indigenous person, this Rob Joseph. He's Indigenous, and I think it's a great book. Here. Since its creation in 1876, the Indian Act has dictated and constrained the lives and opportunities of Indigenous peoples, and is at the root of many enduring stereotypes. Bob Joseph examines how Indigenous peoples can return to self-government, self-determination, and self-reliance, and how doing so would result in a better country for every Canadian. He dissects the complex issues around the Indian Act and demonstrates why learning about its cruel and irrevocable legacy is vital for the country to move toward true reconciliation. Right, that's what you get. So you can actually see where I am in the book. I've got to finish it still. So my bad. I'm talking about a book that I haven't fully read. So far, it's been great, and it's giving me a different angle on the things I already know. I got lots of other business books behind me, but I believe he's got one more book, and I think there might be some related online courses. I see them with the same fonts. I just don't know if it's coming from the same author or his company or his group of people. But certainly that's a book you should get. Sorry, I don't have a QR code set up for that. So I'm going to get the link and I'm going to throw it up. 21 things you may not know about the Indian Act, helping Canadians make reconciliation with Indigenous peoples a reality. Yeah. And I see there's the other book, Indigenous Relations, Insights, Tips, and Suggestions. I haven't read that yet, so it's definitely a book that's on my radar, and I want to read it. Here's the link. I'll throw it up in the... I'll make a quick barcode of it. Yeah, I'll do that. Then you can scan the screen. Give me 2 seconds. I'm doing it. All right. I want to get a nice picture up there too, so I had to download the cover. There. I have no idea what the current price is here. Here it's saying $19.95, so I'll put that up. So let's create that. Ta-da! Okay, I'll show it. Here we go. So that QR code right there, you can scan it right now. Scan it. Come on, just scan it. Okay, whatever. It's going to be up there for a little bit. And I think it populates itself into our chats also anytime I put something up like that. So it should be showing up in the chat. But that's, $20 to give you more history about the Indian Act. This is a great book to continue your Indigenous reconciliation journey. So I would definitely look at that. I got a whole bunch of stuff about intermediate implementation for you. And I even have some stuff about what it means to be an ally, but I think I'll save this stuff for next week's live on Indigenous Relations. What else we got here? I got something else. I do designs. This is my creative output. I do designs for t-shirts and hats and that sort of thing. I got over 100 designs now on TeePublic, and it's not a big money maker for me, but it is something I like to do. Anytime I think of a good saying or a good good image, a lot of it is HR related, so there's a lot of HR memes type stuff, but there is some Indigenous stuff in there. And I just wanted to show you here a new QR code. This is my Truth and Reconciliation Day design. You can get this on a t-shirt, you can get it on a coffee mug, you can get it on a hat, you can get it on a sticker. Stickers are cool. So magnet for your fridge, this design. And if you end up purchasing something like that, I think if you bought that t-shirt right now for $28, I'd probably make $1.50. It's a real numbers game if you want to make money off t-shirt designs. So anyway, Truth and Reconciliation Day is coming up on September 30th. I believe it's a Monday. So it's a month away. So you might want to order your t-shirt now. Now it does come, this TeePublic is a US online business, but it's me making the design. I'm your Indigenous connection, so don't feel bad if you purchase this t-shirt. Or there is a few other Indigenous designs on there, but this one is specific for the Truth and Reconciliation Day, so I thought I might put that up. And I'll check the chats here one more time to see if anybody is chatting it up. I'll do a refresh on the screen, see if anything shows. No, nothing right now. That is fine. Okay, so I'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow, I've forgotten what the topic is for tomorrow. Let me check my list. Live events. Wednesdays, I'm going to be talking about gigs and side hustles. Basically, I feel like my whole life is just a big gig side hustle thing. You know, if I'm making designs for TeePublic for sale, that's one way of doing it. And I think we might talk about marketing and things like that during the gigs and hustles section. And it's kind of what's your passion? You know, what are you trying to move your career into? And let's jam, let's talk about what you're doing. Let's talk about what you're doing to actually make it grow. If it's just something silly and you really, really enjoy it and you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. It doesn't have to be something amazing. You might pick up a couple ideas from other people. You might give me ideas and I'm going to steal your ideas. And that's good because we got to help each other. We're out here hustling or freelancing, trying to create that business we always want based on our passions. So that's Wednesdays. Also this week, Thursday's Career Club. We're going to talk resumes, cover letters, job search, interview tips, all these sorts of things, the job market, where to apply for jobs, things like that. We'll also talk about how to get promotions in your organizations. And again, we're going to share some ideas. Hopefully, we all got some great ideas that we can share. And Friday, I decided to call that Fun and Games. I'm going to talk about fun stuff. I might talk about books. I might talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I might talk about Magic the Gathering. We might talk about any other game. We might talk about the world's hardest board game, Dungeon Lords. We might just talk about the racist undertones of Puerto Rico, things like that. But we might talk movies. All right, we might talk movies. I'm a big movie buff. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I love sci-fi. I love Star Wars, but I also love the fantasy. So we might talk about Lord of the Rings for 2 hours. Who knows? It's Fun and Games on Friday. So hope to see you there. And I think I'm going to let you go. Nobody's had any questions, so we're good. But I think an hour and a half is good for today. I'm gonna keep doing this. I want to say we, or it is we, because you're gonna watch it, right? You're gonna continue to watch this, and hopefully we will create a we community that we can have more people chatting. So I'm doing this over lunch times because my target market is business people, business owners, managers, stuff like that. So if you want to pop in just while you're munching away at your lunch and ask a quick question, that's totally fine. I don't expect everyone to sit here the whole time. Okay. Thank you for watching. I will